Chapter 12. Shabataka, my brother. No word came from the great house. The people were disturbed. Pharaoh had not come out in the morning to bless the Nile. Where was the daily report? They're hiding something. Is Pharaoh, the gods forbid, dead? It will happen soon, Amos muttered to himself. It will have to happen soon. That evening he returned to the house of Talos without his gold rings and bracelets, loaded down with sacks of barley and non-perishable foods enough for a journey. You're leaving? Said Taharka. Already he felt a strange, painful sense of loss. No, said Amos, not quite yet. He would say no more. And then the army arrived from Cush. Taharka in Baku's surgery first heard them in the distance. The drums, the rattling of the spears on the great Cushite shields. Already the earth seemed to shake to their sound. For a moment his heart stopped, then pulsed again to that majestic beat. They're here, and they're here, shouted a man, bursting into the surgery. They're massing outside the city. There's a whole contingent of them. It looks like thousands coming toward the docks. How had they come so soon? It was only 7 days since he had sent the message. A horseman would take at least 15 days to reach Cush. Had they been waiting somewhere not too far from the city? For what? Why? Louder and louder. Yes, they were coming. A little boy, having a scraped knee treated, he had a nervous mother, suddenly slid off the table and ran to the door. Baku and Taharka looked at each other and, without words, followed his example. They were coming, line upon line of the tall black men of Cush in their linen kilts, with their man-high shields covered with the skins of beasts. They marched along the docks, filing out to block off the quays. All but one, the great main pier where the official barges were moored. The people followed slowly, curious, unsure of what was happening, a little frightened. A few tried to follow onto the pier, but were held back by the spears. Taharka looked up. The tops of the houses nearby were swarming with people hoping for a better view. But this did not last long, for a soldier on horseback rode back and forth shouting, "Into your houses! Clear the roofs on pain of death!" "What is this?" whispered Baku. "What are they doing? Their general is coming. By boat?" They had left an opening at the end of the quay. Through the gap Taharka saw a giant boat approaching. For a moment he thought it was the royal barge, but that could not be. No, it was indeed the barge of the general of the Cushite armies, but for some reason was fitted out with the royal standards leafed in gold. A soft murmur, like a sigh, rose among the people as the barge was moored and a small guard of men assembled. A great chair, washed in gold and resting on cedar poles, was lifted to the shoulders of 4 of the tall, tall men of the far south. In it sat not a general, but a god. He wore the double crown of the north and the south. He carried the golden wand. "On your knees!" The people obeyed, Taharka among them. A man, the crier, had come out upon the landing. He carried a papyrus scroll, which he slowly unrolled. "I will read to you the words of the god. Let them be proclaimed throughout the city. I, Shabataka, son of the sun, great god of Cush, lord of the 2 lands, do hereby proclaim my kingdom. This day a great sacrilege has been averted. Blasphemers have dared to claim my holy office in the name of a pretender, and because of this, the Assyrians have risen in the east, and all manner of evil has come upon the land. Let this sacrilege be blotted out from memory. Let my divine rule be written from the day of my divine father's going forth. I, Shabataka, will cleanse the land of this blasphemy. I, Shabataka, will lead you against the Assyrians till there is not one left to rise against my majesty. Let it be proclaimed." The man rolled up the papyrus and stepped back onto the barge. Silence hung over the quay, as still as the air itself. No cries, no cheers, no exclamations of wonder rose from the crowd. All that could be heard was the soft lap of the river against the stones. Shabataka, thought Taharka, not the Assyrians. Shabataka, my brother. The chariot carriers, with their awesome burden, were moving onto the landing. They were coming closer. Taharka had only one thought. He would not abase himself here on the stones while his mortal enemy passed by. Slowly he rose to his feet, his eyes on the radiant figure in the golden chair. There was a stirring among the soldiers, but they would not move as Pharaoh passed them. As it moved beyond him, the godlike figure turned its head. He saw Shabataka's eyes widen in recognition. He realized what he had done. He was in grave danger. As the god passed, the people had risen behind him. Taharka moved back into the throng. He wanted to run, but he knew this would be a fatal thing. He listened, his heart racing for Shabataka's shout of command, but heard nothing. His thoughts churned. Shabataka had been surprised, he told himself. That was why there was no word of command. Back, farther into the crowd till he was quite lost among them. The soldiers were moving now, spear points leveled, scanning the throng for the one who had dared stand on his feet before the god. But it was half-hearted. In all that shifting of men, women, and children, who could say which one it had been? Tonight it will be different, he thought. He knows now. He knows I am alive. He knows I am in the city. He knows I dared to face him. He will send men to search the houses in the district. I can't go back to Baku. And, with all the rest, one thought throbbed in his brain, a great grief rising to overwhelm him. Shabataka. Shabataka. I have lost my brother. I'm alone.